Thank you. Thanks for having me here, too. I appreciate it. Yeah, so just imagine a Twilight Zone episode, and actually a Black Mirror episode now, where everyone has a shadow double, you know, an alter ego, someone that only they can see, and no one else can see this person. And just imagine that this shadow double, it looks like them, and kind of, you know, appears to be all the same, but is actually quite different. It's almost an alter ego. And imagine that, you know, in this Twilight Zone episode, that the only way that the person could actually see themselves is as this doppelganger. So, guess what? That's not a Twilight Zone episode. That's us. This is actually what we're all dealing with. The entire world, every single person, whenever they look inside of a backwards mirror, they are seeing an altered version of themselves. And what I discovered is that it's not just a physical alteration. It's really about, you know, who they are, how they are, what's really going on when they actually make eye contact with this altered person. And so, as the introduction said, I was pretty much floored the first time I saw this, because you know, the true story is a social event. It was a party, and I was flying high. I was having a great time. And I walked into the bathroom, and literally, I really got chopped down hard. And you know, I said to, you know, this mirror face said to me, dude, you're fucked up. There's something seriously wrong with you too. Like the smile that I had, it was a big smile, looked almost manic. It looked very fake, and my eyes were like kind of wild and completely just unnerving. And it really wasn't the first time that I had struggled with this version of the mirror. I had, you know, been for quite some time having some difficulty with it. And it literally was a transformative experience when I turned the corner and there was a medicine cabinet at right angles. And I swear I literally did a double take, because it's like, whoa, there you are. I literally said that. And the second thing that came out of my mouth was, so what, you're fucked up? You're having a good time. And I literally started beaming at myself. And that smile, which really looked fake and strained, and my eyes kind of manic and wild, suddenly were happy. You know, that smile looked genuine, it looked warm, because truthfully I was happy. And this is what's so crazy. I absolutely recognized the person I was looking at, and it didn't go away. I literally spent 5 minutes just going, oh my God. And I would go back and look in the regular mirror, and whoosh, it would just disappear again. And to this day, so that was like 35 years ago, to this day it's still true. Not just for me, but for other people that I've shown this to. In fact, I showed a few people, I have one here today, I showed a few people already. You saw it.
Yeah.
You saw it, and you can tell there's a big difference.
Yeah.
But part of the story here is, you know, why is it that I've discovered this thing and no one else did? I think part of it was that I was at a party, quote unquote. But the other thing is I really had quite a long interaction with the mirror, where 3 years earlier I'd actually been in front of the mirror, and I just had some pictures taken of, and this goes into what's known as the hair part theory. Has anyone heard this one before?
Well, that one, if you part it to one side, you look better.
It's there was a Radiolab episode a few years ago that they did on this, and it's kind of why this was so meaningful when I first saw this. So basically, I was in front of the mirror, and I just had some pictures taken for an ID photograph. I was working for Con Ed for the summer, and there was 4 of them. Like, it was a 4-shot. And I remember going, you know, again, to a photograph. And I was in front of the mirror going, why do pictures look so funny? I look fine. And that's when I realized that the guy in the mirror was sporting a left part, whereas the guy in real life had a right part. And I went and I changed it. So basically I was like this. So this is basically how I was appearing to myself I mean, to the world. The world saw me this way. But when you flip it in a mirror, suddenly the right side's on the left, and it looks like it's the left part. Simple, right? But it actually matters. And so I went and I switched it, and I put it on the left, and all of a sudden, at first it looked funny in the mirror, but I said, I bet you it looks good in real life. And I swear I turned around, faced the world, and went out to the world. I was 19 at the time. Totally changed my social life, like overnight. I swear to God, instead of this kind of nerdy kid that was often shunned, suddenly I was accepted without even trying. And it was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. And so I had this experience of hanging out with my friends at hometown. I was back home from school. And all of a sudden, instead of 3 friends, I suddenly had 80. You know, and I actually wrote it down. It's like, wow, I made a new person today. I was a thing. I was actually had a social life. And then I went back to college, and then the same thing happened. Instead of like a couple of friends, I suddenly had like 100 friends. And I was like doing this and doing that, all the social stuff. And so about 4 months went off since I first switched it, and I started having like really problems. I started getting really schizophrenic, because who really was I? Was I this kind of flashy guy who had all these parties to go to, or the kind of warm and sensitive, somewhat nerdy guy who actually had 4 hours of physics to do, you know? And, you know, what am I supposed to do? I can't learn physics, you know, if I'm this flashy guy. I mean, to where at the point I was like, okay, let me switch over here. Okay, I'll learn some physics, and then I'll go back to my party, you know. And then the wind would blow, and it's like, oh my God, what's going on? And that's when I'm in front of the mirror again, going, I don't know, you know. And all of a sudden I said, well, maybe if I part in the middle, you know. So, and I did. I parted in the middle, and this actually neutralized it. It was an incredible experience of like, instead of like, for my whole life, there's this kind of negative light shining on me, and then all of a sudden this really positive light, all of a sudden there's no light. And it was like I'd walk into a situation, it's like, hello, I'm here, because people would just kind of ignore me. I wasn't like affecting the situation automatically. And it turns out that was a lot stronger, you know, and to this day, I don't part my hair at all, or you know, the middle part's a little bit weird, so. You know, this is how I do my hair normally, right? So whatever. The point is, it's like my hair is not speaking for me. It's not emphasizing one side at the expense of the other. So I got suddenly, okay, I can have a social life, and I can learn my physics, and I managed to complete everything, and everything was good. But I started having a lot of problems with the mirror, because you know, I really started to, you know, everything was going much better in my real life. But the mirror started giving me more and more grief, like, so you're still not right, you're still not right. So that was like 3 years of that before I'm at that beach party in California, everything's going great. And once again, the mirror was just trashing me and saying, dude, you're still wrong. There's some, you know, you're fooling those people out there, you know. I literally said all that stuff within 5 seconds of walking into the mirror in the bathroom. So when this new discovery came, it really floored me, and I was like, "Oh my God, you're fine. There's nothing wrong with you." And this experience, that, you know, was like, I felt like I'd taken a shower and all this crud had just come off of me, and to this day, it's still real. It's still true, because I've shown it to this mirror to so many other people, and get a huge amount of agreement on this, you know. That basically you're seeing a natural version of yourself, and that the backwards version is actually quite unnatural, and so, you know, like, why should that be? And the reason comes down to the idea that we have 2 different sides of our brain and 2 different sides of our face, and the conventional, often overused generalization, but I'll use it tonight for convenience, is the left side is your logic side, and the right side is your feeling side. Okay, please forgive me for being like not specific and not, you know, 100%. It's all, you know, there's a mishmash going on there, but there's definitely tendencies, and the truth is that the sides are different. Okay, your left side is definitely different than your right, and how it comes through your face is different. Like our face's left side is different than our right. it belongs there. When you flip your face in a mirror, you're altering something really fundamental about yourself. You're putting your right side on the left, left on the right, and what happens, the message of what you're saying with your face, and this is the key, is when we look at each other, especially eye to eye, we communicate a lot of information, like instantly, and we read each other. Every single person, even though I don't know you, I can read you, and pretty accurately, because the convention is everyone's left is on that side, everyone's right's on this side, just the way it is, except for you in a mirror. So the problem is when you make eye contact in a mirror, within literally 5 seconds, your face stops working. And you do this, and you tend to just stare. And it's like if you try, it's like, it just doesn't work. You can't smile at yourself in a mirror, for instance. Turns out you can frown in a mirror. And frowns work perfectly well. Like quote-unquote negative expressions look just as negative. But the positive ones, the ones that are full of life and energy, the light in your eyes, when you're actually smiling, there's a sparkle in your eyes. And I don't know how we create it, but you can tell. And you can tell if it's real or not. Like the genuine smile, often, like you can't fake it. I mean, I heard that only about 5% of the people can actually fake a genuine smile, and they're usually psychopaths,
What's the difference? I see charm.
And it's actually interesting because everyone has a genuine smile, and yet none of us really get to see it. If someone's pointing a camera at you, chances are you're going to have a fake smile. You're going to have a camera smile, and that's part of the thing that's really funny. Cameras create true images. The picture is true, but it's really not the way you are, because you're posing for the camera. You're trying to interact with a lens, and lenses don't interact. They just go like this. You have to somehow pretend. Maybe that's why actors can do that. They can actually pretend right to the camera lens. But the problem is, even if you have a camera, you can't make eye contact. Like if it's a video, it's shooting video, you're either looking at right in the lens or you're looking at the monitor. Like you can't make that direct eye contact. And that's when this enormous amount of information flows back and forth that you can actually interact with. And so part of the story here is that, so this was a big realization for me back when I was 22, and I was all excited to share this with the world, and so I would show people and they'd go, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "No, really, can't you see it's different?" It's like, "No." And this began along, and it still continues to this day, that the way people respond to this mirror is an absolute reflection of who they are as people and how they think about things and what they think about themselves and what they think about image and how much they interact with themselves and how much they don't interact with themselves and whether they're naturally vivacious or naturally reserved. And it's been this like, wait, why aren't people like getting all excited like I am? And it wasn't until I started showing enough people that I actually saw, okay, it's 10% is like this, and another 10% like that, and 30% like this, and like when I've actually made them. So it turned out, I said maybe it's because there's a big line in the middle. So if you take two regular mirrors and put them together, there's always a big gap in the middle, and that gap goes right through your eyes, which is the problem. So you're missing information. So I fixed that. I figured out how to do it. It's using this special glass called front surface mirror. And it turns out when you put them together, it's the silver touches silver. And so the first time I did that and I saw the line disappear, I said, I can do this, And so I felt that was the reason people weren't seeing it. So I made one and I put it together and I started showing people, and it's still they weren't getting it. It was like, but fortunately a lot of people were. So it's kept me motivated over these years to actually make a company that actually does this. So this is our 25th anniversary of making these mirrors, they're on Amazon and like anything else. And what's really fun is like trying to show it to people, and it turns out that any demographic is there's no prediction for how people respond, except for one. it turns out that the demographic that's most receptive to this mirror is people who are either artists or have artistic sensibility. You know what I mean? There's a certain way of looking at the world that when they see themselves, they look at themselves in that same way and they go, wow. You know, and it's really kind of fun. I take it to Burning Man, and of course, instead of like a 10% or 10 or 20% positive response rate, it's almost 80%. You know, and we have a lot of fun out there. You know, and you know, we've been working on figuring out where and how to get this thing out there, because at the end of the day, I think it's actually really, really important that this doppelganger that you have to deal with is really messing with you, messing with all of us, whether you're conscious of it or not, that every single day you go to a mirror, and it's been that way since you were a child. So it's ubiquitous, it's everywhere, it's unquestioned, you know, you believe it's you, it's completely solitary, like you're the only person that actually sees that. You know, even if you like make eye contact in a mirror with your hairdresser, as soon as you make eye contact with someone else, you can start interacting. I mean, it's going to be a little bit different than in real life, but it's the idea that when you make eye contact with yourself, you're in this crazy feedback loop that's instantaneously got that twist to it, and you respond to it differently. But so we talk about self-image, we talk about self-esteem, we talk about understanding, figuring things out, and I've seen so many people like just absolutely melt in front of themselves with like, oh my God, I love this, you know? Like this woman, she looked for 5 seconds and she turns to me and goes, oh my God, now I know why people like me. You know? And then she started crying. And this woman who's in her late 40s, right? If you looked at her for 5 seconds, of course you liked her. She was lovely. You know, not pretty, not just pretty, but she was lovely. And you saw it in her eyes. And the eyes have all this beautiful information that completely gets lost backwards to all of us. You know, that gentleness of spirit, the compassion, the warmth that you share with each other, we can't share with ourselves. And so what has that done to us? Like your whole life, like, and what has it done to our society? What's it done to our culture? So you think about like a Twilight Zone episode where some crazy premise and you know, like the one where everyone had these weird noses and it was really, everyone was ugly and then this beautiful person, and they fixed her and she's like, oh my God, I'm ugly, you know, because she was, you know, there's just the classical sense of what's beautiful. But you know, to think that every single person, not only physically, but emotionally and personally, knows themselves in a way that's different than what's real. It's like, kind of no wonder we're screwed up. You know what I mean? At some level, how has this actually affected us? So the idea of the true mirror is to provide this window to yourself, you know, a window to your soul as a tool, you know, and to say, look, use this thing to first of all say, oh my God, now I see what other people are seeing. Now I see what's really there, or how I communicate. Now I see what's attractive and appealing about me. Now I see my naturalness. Now I see my power. Whatever's true, even your misery. You know, I want to tell you, one time, and it was after Burning Man, when you're totally burnt out, like you've been in the desert for 2 weeks, and you come out, and there was some relationship stuff that I was upset about, and I said, I'm in the hotel room, I said, I want to see what this looks like, right? So I brought the true mirror out, because I'm all about this, the happiness and all that. So I brought the true mirror, and I started crying, you know? And so I'm crying to myself in the true mirror for about 5 minutes. And there's a reason why guys don't cry, okay? We look horrible. You know? And women say, well, we look horrible too. It's like, well, we're used to it, you know? I mean, when a guy cries, it's like, it's almost frightening, you know? And so I'm looking at my face, and it's like torn, it's racked, and I'm going deeper and deeper how really miserable I was. And the experience, because Mr. Scientist is back here, the experience was one of like continuity, you know, so I stayed with the emotion. There's no judgment about it. I wasn't trying to like decide, I was just experiencing it. There's no criticism. Tons of empathy, you know, because I really, really was feeling it. Tons of compassion. I felt like I validated myself. I validated my feeling. Like, yeah, no wonder you feel this way. Yes, this really hurts. And so I was looking like crap. I was feeling like crap. and it was just this almost frightening thing. But in the back of my mind, I'm going, this is awesome. Wow, that's some real shit right there. To be able to really, connect with myself in that way, to me, it illustrates the tool nature of this. What's going on? How are you? Why are you? What are you? What are people seeing? What's going on? Who are you? And then even like why are you? Why am I here? Give me some answers. And you can actually get into a dialogue with yourself that actually is fruitful. And I swear if you try the same thing in the backwards mirror, you get maybe 5 or 10 seconds tops, and then it goes away. And you end up in this box of self-analysis that really doesn't change. Like it's been that way for years. Like we know ourselves one way, and it's like, wait, this is 20 years later. You're a different person. It's like, but the mirror is almost exactly the same. So anyway, that was the vision. Let me just check my notes really quick and see if I said anything. I just want to point out one thing which has been a little bit frustrating. In 25 years of doing this, and it's been covered in the press, so it's been out there, it comes and goes, and people have heard about it, and I've reached out a number of times, but the research community, for some reason, has shrugged its shoulder at this thing. Like there hasn't been one person who has either contacted or has contacted me saying, this is really fascinating, let's go study this. So I've been working with myself and my anecdotal evidence for years. So if anyone knows of a psych researcher that's just dying for a really good project, I am definitely in the market for finding them. And we can, to me this is fertile ground for things like body dysmorphia. Like one time there was a woman that looked at the full-length version, and as soon as you met her, she was all sparkly. She's one of these like incredibly sparkly people. And I told her, and she's like, I love this. This makes me so happy. She started jumping up and down like this, and she was like, probably almost 6 foot tall woman. Like she was, and if you took her backwards, all that sparkling in her just went away, and she's just like, up in there. And here she is jumping up and down in excitement with this amazing sparkling energy coming out of her eyes. And I'm going, okay, that is a total example of body dysmorphia, not a disorder. Like it's not to the point of disorder, but the dysmorphia, the idea that you have a different, this morphs into something else, is embedded in her head, and she had no clue how incredible, beautiful she was, and appealing and attractive and amazing. And she was seeing it for the first time, and she's just like exploding with joy. So body dysmorphia, autism, early childhood development, abnormal psychology. Like if someone really is twisted, how do they interact with themselves in a mirror? Let's find out. Let's find out if they can actually make breakthroughs to their normal self. Any kind of issues that people have. So to me, the future is going to be one where it does get picked up and people, because enough people have seen it that I believe it, so it's a matter of getting it scientifically studied and quantified and qualified, so that in the future, kids will grow up with their true version since childhood, and they just know themselves, and they don't have this doppelganger in their head at all. Like they ignore the backwards version, because the mirrors are going to be there anyway, but you just don't pay attention. That's just one of those. The real version over here in my true mirror somewhere. So that's the vision, that's the hope. Please, after the thing, I'll give you the Cook's tour of your experience.
Do it, it's really cool.
and one of my taglines that when I show this is, your experience is the art. And I love to see it. So I'm very happy to be able to be here, and let's hope that we turn this Twilight Zone episode off, and that goes back into history, and we come out to this new version, which is, thank you.